Alright, what's going on, guys? Today is November 6th, it's Monday, it's the start of a new week, and I'm going to let you guys file into the group here real quick, just while I check and make sure the audio is working well, and I'm also going to file the link into the group, and then we'll get started. Change this. Today's episode is actually number 4. I think yesterday I mistakenly said it was number 4. It was number 3. So this is the official episode number 4. Sorry for the quick mix up there. Like I said, guys, we're going to be going over, I'll let a couple get in first, and then I'll kind of go over the itinerary, what we're going to be looking at, and give you some outlook and get you prepped for this fork. Looks like one person's joined us. Nice. All right, cool. Looks like a couple guys filed in. So yeah, welcome, guys. I said earlier, I'm not sure if you joined a little bit late and missed it. Today we're going to be going over, I'm going to try to keep the Bitcoin outlook and the Bitcoin analysis a little bit bigger picture. Lately I've been zooming in a lot more, and we've been working on active trades a lot, which have been going well for me for the past 2 weeks. I just missed a trade last night. I got out about right here. I got in a little bit above 7,200, so took a $100 loss. And right now it's just, Bitcoin can't make its mind up. We had 1 or 2 daily closes above the channel, and it's since dropped back down. The SegWit 2x kind of FUD and hype cycle is really kind of messing with the market, and the market doesn't like uncertainty. So we're seeing a lot of volatility, which I like to trade. But when it's going against you, and you can't define or pick really a clear trend, I don't want to just sit there and lose money in the chop. So I'm kind of taking a step back and going to use this time to really prepare for the hard fork, which should take place next week. And I think that's probably wise for everyone in here to do. If you haven't thought about it, it's definitely time to start doing so. So we'll try to prep for that all week and all next week. So looking at this longer term channel, if you go back to the first episode I had, which seems like years ago in crypto, it was just last year, or just last week. I mean, we got to the top of this channel. I thought we'd entered an entirely new phase in crypto, and we'd finally broken out of this channel, which we'd been in since 2017. Up until now, it's been an excellent guide, helping me to determine when to start moving into alts, or when to perhaps start moving into cash to hedge a little bit. I thought that paradigm had shifted. I thought we broke out right up in this region, and like I said a minute ago, we did have a couple of daily closes above. SegWit 2x futures were so high that I thought it was not a guarantee, nothing's a guarantee, but I thought we were definitely headed for this 8,000 mark, and we might still get there, but it's definitely not that clear, as the market has decided now to re-enter the channel. So it looks like this tool will remain, the channel will remain useful for now, and this is going to help us prepare going forward, and it's also a good visual for how I'm going to try to explain a little bit of portfolio strategy. So going into this, and I got some inspiration for this video. I was watching earlier today Carter Thomas on Twitter. He does, let's see if I can pull him up. He does a bunch of videos I find them pretty helpful. A lot of them have really kind of big picture investment advice. He did a SegWit 2x strategy guide today, and he also has a PDF, I think, for free. I didn't look at the PDF yet. But he goes over, 3 different big picture strategies, and whether you want to allocate some money to cash, or whether you want to stay in all Bitcoin, or whether you want to go heavy into alts, and kind of touches on that. I like to think about it a little bit differently, and we'll go over that, but I definitely got some inspiration from that. Check that out if you guys want some more kind of strategy discussion going into the fork. I think it's a really helpful video, so I just wanted to throw that resource out there. The way that I want to think about this fork is the way that I've been thinking about kind of crypto portfolio theory, if you want to call it that, for the last month or two. In that this kind of started right when we were starting this last big bull run. I'm going to draw the 2 corrections real quick. So we had a correction back here. This was all the China FUD and Jamie Dimon and such. And it was the last time that we got to the top of the channel. And we broke out of this channel, and a lot of people were really heavy in alts, and right about here, a lot of investors, whether they hadn't seen a Bitcoin bull run like this yet, or they were just new to the game, realized they were extremely overexposed to alts, and kind of learned a lot about exposure and what a currency transaction is. If you're long one, then you kind of have inherently short exposure in the other. So a lot of people learned about those kind of exposures. So I did a kind of a Twitter thread describing different ways to think about either shifting into Bitcoin heavy at the lower side of the channel, or moving out of Bitcoin when we're at the top side of this channel. I thought this kind of channel would be void now since we broke out, but it looks like it's staying in. So the fork isn't too far away, and I think this channel is going to continue to probably be a good guide. I think the fork's scheduled for 11/16, so we'll put a line right here just to give you guys a little visual representation here. So the way that I want to think about the portfolio going into this, I think there's 3 kind of big picture different approaches you can take. I think I'd be lying if I said I knew which one is going to work best. I think anyone out there is. If they had all those answers, they probably wouldn't be sharing them or stuff like that. I mean, I'm a student of the market. This market moves so quick that I'm learning more every single day, and I think anyone that isn't, anyone that's saying they have the secret formula might be deceiving you. So I'm not going to lie and say that I know exactly what will happen, but I'll give you guys 3 strategies and kind of how I'm thinking about it and what I'm doing, and then you can make that decision as a more informed investor. I think that's probably the best approach you can have. So the way that I think about crypto investing, a lot of people, like I was saying with this exposure, some people were thinking about their portfolio in dollar terms. I like to benchmark against Bitcoin, since that is the opportunity cost that you kind of take when you invest into alts. So some people got invested in alts down here. They noticed as they went up, they were losing Bitcoin steadily, but their cash wasn't going down. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I know someone tagged me in a post yesterday and asked me if that's bad. No, it's not bad. You're not losing US dollars, but if you just would have stayed in Bitcoin, you definitely would have returned more. So that's kind of how we're going to think and benchmark these strategies. So strategy number 1 for this, let me give another visual here. Strategy number 1, I like to think about this as the most kind of risk averse. And it guarantees that you don't end up with any less Bitcoin. This would be just holding Bitcoin. So if you're going into this fork, you want to be extremely passive. You don't want to jump into alts. You don't want to get burned anymore. You don't want to really move into cash. You don't want to be active. You don't even want to think about this. You're ready to just stay in Bitcoin. Even if we have some kind of correction here, or some kind of profit taking or anything, you don't really mind. You just don't want to end up with less Bitcoin. So strategy number 1, just holding your Bitcoin at least it guarantees that you won't end up with less Bitcoin. That's one strategy. What's kind of tough for some people to realize is that maybe they just actually shouldn't be trading. I think most people in this group, some people have already had some success, or some people are wanting to get into it. So I don't think that's a large portion of people here, but definitely there's a lot of people out there on Twitter or just in the general population where trading might just not be the best approach. They just don't have the amount of time they can spend to it. They're not kind of committed or disciplined enough to stick to a plan. So this kind of approach, that might be best. You're not going to lose any Bitcoin there. You might suffer a drawdown in your portfolio, but you're definitely not losing Bitcoin. So that's approach number one. Approach number two, we'll call this take profit to fiat. So strategy number two, and guys, these aren't binary, so at the very end I'll kind of talk about maybe having a blend of a few and talk about how allocation goes into these, but these are kind of your three choices, and then we'll talk about how to blend them and create a strategy that fits your risk tolerance. So number two would be starting to take some profit and moving that into fiat, whether that's US dollars or Tether, whatever you prefer. I don't really buy into that whole Tether conspiracy. I don't think it's any more risky having your money in Tether than it is having your Bitcoin on an exchange. It's definitely not ideal, but I also don't think it's the worst thing. So taking some profits, that would involve using this channel as a guide. In the past, whether we hit the top of the channel and we come back up and hit it one more time leading into the fork, which I think is likely. That's happened in the past a few times. That happened here, small retracement, hit the top of the channel again before the full correction. Same thing here, hit the top of the channel, retracement, hit the top of the channel, full correction. So this is our first time touching the top of the channel. So this line in the past and historically, and kind of with the timing of when we're running into the fork and when it seems that people will be disincentivized to hold Bitcoin, looks like they're going to be wanting to hold up until the snapshot to claim their 2x, and then there might be a sell-off in Bitcoin. So up in this range, maybe it's if we can touch that line again, maybe it's above 7K. Maybe you're looking to move some Bitcoin into cash, and you could also do that. Not all at once. You could scale out of Bitcoin as it gets up here, or scale out of Bitcoin as it gets up here. What that allows you to do is it allows you to dampen the drawdown. So instead of just holding Bitcoin through the downturn and taking a maybe, in the past I think these have been about 30, so that's a 35% downturn. This one was 30 or 40% downturn or drawdown. If you're not willing to really suffer through that, if there's maybe a drawdown, maybe you want to be a little bit more active. Maybe you want to move some Bitcoin into cash, and then start looking to scale back into Bitcoin as we get into this lower side of the channel. The idea being, suppose you have a 1 Bitcoin portfolio, you sell it up here for $6,900. As we're moving, you sell it up here, $6,900. As we're moving down, and suppose we get to this 5,100 range or down, people are talking, these 4K ranges. Now you have $6,000 worth of fiat, which you can then put into Bitcoin. You're able to get more Bitcoin with your cash or your profits that you took up here. Even if you only took profit on half of your Bitcoin, you could still buy more than half of a Bitcoin down here. So similar to the way, I don't think it's statistically a losing game to try to pick tops or to try to buy bottoms. I think kind of scaling out, if you want to take some profits into fiat, it might be a good move, going throughout this week and going into next week. If we do get some big pumps, whether or not we hit 8K or whether some people are still massively bullish and say 10K, I don't really see it happening, but who knows? Maybe you start to scale out of Bitcoin and just take some profits just in case we do see a drawdown. And then you can buy back Bitcoin. So that's one way to try to earn more Bitcoin. So this is a little bit more of an active approach. This is passive, guaranteeing no loss of Bitcoin. This one you could lose Bitcoin. I mean, you might sell up here and Bitcoin just keeps going. The fork's non-event. I don't think that's going to happen. So you might want to implement a little bit of taking profit into fiat, and that just kind of goes along with my valuation kind of strategy and thread, which I'll post again to the strategies channel if you haven't checked it out. I think it's worth a read. So the third strategy, what I imagine a lot of you guys will be doing, I'll be doing some of this as well. This is going to be taking profits to alts. So this one is a little bit more complex. It's definitely for the more risk tolerant investors or traders in the group. So the timing here, and I also touch on this in my thread, is very similar to taking profit on your expensive Bitcoin up here, or as we get closer to this fork date. The idea is that your alts are cheap relative in Bitcoin terms. Since there's a very strong Bitcoin price, even if your alt dollar value remain the exact same, its Bitcoin price is probably suppressed. So instead of taking profits up here and moving some into fiat, maybe you move some into your favorite alts. I know earlier in the week we were looking at XZC. We're also looking at VIA, which is still holding support. A couple guys in the group are in OMG. So we'll also look at alts, and we'll continue to look at those setups leading up to the fork. So as you're taking profits here, maybe you're moving, building into those positions in alts. The same way we're not trying to sell a top here or pick an exact bottom here. We're not going to be able to get the exact bottom in an alt, but you can definitely build a position for the ones that might not have spiked yet today, or if Bitcoin, sorry guys, or if Bitcoin, gives us one more move up, maybe it pushes your favorite alt down, and you can build into that position. So that's just kind of the third option you have. The way that I'm going to do it personally, I kind of break my crypto portfolio into a few portfolios anyway. So I have an ICO portfolio, which I consider separate. And then in terms of my actual alt holdings relative to Bitcoin, that's probably the question I'm asked the most. I think I touched on this right when the group started. I don't like to be in too many more alt positions than maybe 5 positions at once. I found it's extremely hard to manage especially if you're just doing it part-time and you're just a one-man shop. Trying to keep up with 5 projects and 5 charts and 5 take profits or 5 stops is going to be really hard to do. So going along with maybe 1 to 5 or 1 to 4 alt positions that I like, of those positions, a really big alt position would be 10% of the portfolio. So at no time I would never be allocated heavier than 50% to alts, or alts are 50% of the Bitcoin that I have in the portfolio. So that's just the way that I think of it. You can do whatever you like. That's kind of what I also use to manage my exposure as well. So if Bitcoin does get a big run up, I'm always at least 50% exposed to Bitcoin. My kind of end game or whole strategy here is to be gaining more Bitcoin, because I truly think Bitcoin probably has the best chances of continuing a move up next year and continuing to be around. I can't really say the same about all these alts. They might do well short term, or some might survive and surpass Bitcoin in the long run, but right now there's a lot of projects that just aren't big enough, or we're not sure if they're going to survive. Bitcoin right now is probably the only one big enough to absorb liquidity from institutional guys. So I think that Bitcoin is going to continue to benefit in the short to medium run. So I'm just trying to earn more Bitcoin. So I got off track. So I'm going to be moving into 3 or 4 alt positions. I'm going to be building into that. Some people are saying that Bitcoin might dump a little bit before the fork. Some people are saying right after the snapshot. I'm going to need to research and find out exactly when the snapshot is happening. I'm probably going to want to build into some of these alt positions before the snapshot takes place, or before the fork, because I think that's when we'll start to see maybe some Bitcoin profit taking. So as the week goes on, I probably won't be moving too much into fiat. That's just me personally. If you time this trade perfectly, these 2 huge corrections, if you sell up here at 7,200 and you can buy down at 5,000, you're maybe making, it's a 30 or 25 to 30% trade. At the end of the day, you can kind of make that kind of trade in one alt pair or something like that. So it's definitely a way to hedge and reduce your downside exposure. I don't like that strategy as much, simply because I'm usually trying to earn more Bitcoin. I have a separate kind of cash portfolio or something that I use for that. So I'll be taking profits into alts. But I'm going to manage those positions, make sure they don't exceed 3, 4, or 5 positions. The sweet spot for me is 4 alts, and then make sure I'm building into them slowly. So maybe a couple of them are 5%, maybe the one that I'm most bullish on is 10% of the portfolio or something like that. And then right after the fork, I think we will see a really big spike in alts. I at least hope that we do. If not, I'll still be allocated 50 or 60% to Bitcoin, which is fine with me. Sorry guys, I'm getting some random ads popping up. So that's kind of my thought process going into it. We'll continue to, I'll continue to update you guys on what's going on in Bitcoin here, whether we cling to the top of this channel, whether it tries to give us a breakout again. There's going to be coverage every single day, and I'll remain really active in the group and working with you guys on this. But I wanted to give you guys kind of 3 options. I know it's big picture. I just wanted to give you what I'm doing, even if this is really basic. Keeping it simple, I think, is going to be the most helpful for you guys. You have to realize, no one knows what is going to work best. I think you should try to think about it in terms of, what you're managing risk as opposed to trying to make the most money. So, if you're comfortable risking losing some Bitcoin, then maybe move some into alts. If you're not comfortable at all risking Bitcoin, or only comfortable losing a little bit, maybe only move a little bit into alts or a little bit into fiat. So kind of think about your risk more than you want to try to think about just maximizing profits. I think that's kind of helped me formulate a game plan that was a little bit more effective than when I jumped into this whole thing and just tried to catch every alt pump. So that's my thought process. I'm going to keep it big picture now, probably for the rest of the week and next week, like I said. That's all I got for the first kind of session of our fork strategy, and we will continue to go over that. I'm going to leave this on the chart. I think that'll be good. Next, as per usual, we're going to look at some alt setups. Yesterday, I believe I gave this setup. It was for Zcoin. All alts, it looks like they're doing pretty well today. I mean, across the board, you guys can't see that there, but let's see if you can see it here. I mean, alts are doing really, really well today. Potcoin up. I don't quite understand that. Verge, I've been hearing really good things about. I think they just had an upgrade. A lot of these coins are up a lot, up big, and that's a good sign. It kind of gives you a hint of what can happen if there is a sell-off in Bitcoin. I mean, this was only a 7 or 8% move, I believe, and there's pages of alts that are up. This is page 2, and we're still up this. Page 3, page 4, 5, 6 pages, 7, almost 10 pages of every single alt is up. So that's kind of what we want to be scaling into. I don't think that this is really the top yet for Bitcoin. I think we definitely could get a little bit more of a rise. Nonetheless, you could take some profits here if you haven't already and start moving into these alts. A lot of them are still at very, very low levels. So we'll look at those now. So XEC was one I gave yesterday. It's already started to move up out of the ideal entry zone that I highlighted. I'm really hoping that if Bitcoin can give us, let me find a paintbrush. If Bitcoin can give us more pump, maybe the rising wedge holds, and this is ideal down here, guys, right in this horizontal support line, along with the falling support of the rising wedge, or falling wedge, pardon me. This would be really ideal to build a position. We're already up, I think it's like 15 or 20% up, and I don't like this risk reward anymore. Just where we're at in the falling wedge, I don't think it makes sense to enter. Resistance is pretty close, so I'm going to keep an eye on this one. You guys can too if you're a fan of this privacy coin. But what we're looking for is it to get a little bit of resistance that we've had here, and here, and here, and hopefully it moves it back down. And this is what we want down in the support range. So this is going to be one that I'm going to be looking to build a position into. There is a few more. VIA is another one that I'm kind of fond of. A couple guys in the group are talking about this and made me aware of this kind of, in a someone was trading it quite actively, and then I started going over it in the videos. It retraced down to the entry zone, and now it's kind of climbing up really slowly, got up to about 11%. It's climbing up this support, this channel support, quite nice, and it's holding this level. So if you get a chance at all to enter right in here in this zone along the support of the channel, I like this entry a lot. I think there's a good risk reward here. If it were to drop through the channel or drop a little bit lower, you could start to look to have a stop down here, maybe 10 or 15% below, and that would kind of take you out of the current trend we're in. But right now we're seeing higher highs and higher lows, now 3 consecutively. I like this trade. Really active dev team, already doing atomic swaps, so I think there's going to be good things to come out of this one. I think this is a really good candidate for a nice pump when Bitcoin does retrace, or if it does retrace. So we have 2 of those so far. Bcash, let's see what that's up to. Actually, I haven't seen this chart yet today. Where is it? Bcash, okay. I was adding a few supports and resistance lines here. I'm still not really liking this setup. I do like the narrative still of it might get some attention. It's still getting really heavy volume relative to what it's been getting long term. It looks like it's dying off a little bit, but it's definitely going to be interesting. If we can break this red line, then I'll start to consider this trade. It was moving in tandem pretty well with Bitcoin, so I think Bitcoin moving down might have had some effect on its kind of retrace. It is using this as support, but I don't really like an entry in this range. You're only 10% away from this resistance. This could maybe be a really ugly rising wedge. I don't even want to call it that. But it could drop down. I don't like this trade yet, unless it breaks out or unless we get back down to this kind of all-time low horizontal support level. I think it's a much more attractive level. So something else to keep an eye on. Not my favorite. Let's see where ARK's at. So ARK, I know Baysider BKK took this trade. I wonder if he's still in this. I haven't seen him talking about it lately. But this was the second entry level I gave for ARK. It's up about another 20% today. If you get a chance to enter, and I'm going to be looking to enter this one as well. This is something that I like just as much as Zcoin. I'm going to be looking for price to get down back by this green, not this green rectangle, this green support line. So if I can get an entry along this level, over the next week or so, this is ideal. This is what I'm looking for. We've already got 2 bounces in support. This is when Bitcoin was pumping really hard and this level still held. So I'm seeing this as really important. And I'm hoping we can get one more shot at it, maybe something down here, and then back up. I would really like that trade a lot if I can get it down here in this 32,000 sat level. So ARK is another one I'll be watching. So that's 3 that I'll be looking to take profits on. I'm going to keep looking at these for you guys, and definitely spend some more time now each day looking at alts. Now that we are a little bit closer to the fork, I think we're a little bit less likely for Bitcoin to continue its run. While I still think, that's still my belief, is that we still head higher, I'm kind of losing some conviction in that we just fell out of that, what I thought was a confirmed breakout. So I'm losing definitely a little bit of conviction that we do make it too much higher. We might make it higher, but I'm not so sure anymore. So I'm a little bit more comfortable moving into some alts now if we can get up in this range, or even down here. This is fine too. Because in the grand scheme of things, guys, your timing is never going to be perfect. My timing is not always going to be perfect. Entering when Bitcoin is still this expensive and a lot of these alts are still this suppressed, over time, it tends to yield very good results. So looking at that, this, which I put in the portfolio strategy one more time, I mean, you can see where we are in this kind of alt cycle. So I would say it's really attractive if ETH can get all the way down to this kind of support line. It looks like it's already bouncing on the 78% fib, but if Bitcoin can give us one more push up to the fork, and we can get all the way down here, just at least closer to this wall, even if it's right here, I think this is a great kind of visualization of where we are in the alt cycle. And if you enter at the beginning of the cycle and just kind of let it rise, think about this, it's not going to be a straight line, but if we continue the same trend that we've been following since 2015, alts kind of go through a rise and then they'll fall and start a new cycle, peak, and then Bitcoin goes in a run. So if we can get back up here, this would be mid 2018. If we follow the same timeline again, that's going to be very good getting into alts anywhere in this range. So even though a couple of them have started to move, kind of try to think of it with a little bit of a longer term perspective, and I think that might help. So that's what we got with some of these alt setups. I did a Bitcoin overview and kind of a hard fork strategy overview. I did want to spend just one quick little session on a zoomed in Bitcoin. I know some of you guys have been actively trading Bitcoin a little bit more. Let me add my fibs back. So I got long. I caught a little bit of this trade last night. Didn't time that perfect dip that I really wanted. I think I was at 70.75. My order didn't get filled. I jumped in back around 71.60. I took a small trade up here and then ended up getting back in. I think it was around 72 something. I'd have to look at my actual BitMEX. And then I took another $100 loss today. So of my trades last night, I think I had one that was a winner. I think the loser today that I just closed earlier this morning was a bigger loser than this was a winner. So I'm kind of staying away from Bitcoin right now. It looks like we did break through this really significant, what I had as a significant fib level. My fibs are a little bit off. These guys were overlapping each other here. But this was a really big area for me. Now all of a sudden we are starting to get lower lows. This is lower than the last dip. So we might be in for a bigger correction down here to 67 or 66, just because it goes against what I fundamentally think is going to happen. I don't want to short Bitcoin. Technically, I think it's beautiful. I think you could qualify this as a head and shoulders and kind of whatever time frame you're looking at it. But I just don't want to short Bitcoin. I don't want to get caught in another trade. I'd rather kind of take profits and maybe move some into alts or move some into cash, especially if we can get some profit taking above this 7K level. That'd be really ideal. So that's kind of a shorter time frame Bitcoin I just wanted to touch on really quick for any of you guys who are still trading it. I'll still give you guys short-term updates, but I'm going to kind of relax on speculating on Bitcoin right now. I might speculate on a big move once we get a little bit closer to the fork. If all of a sudden we pass a really big fib level, or we pass kind of this midline of the channel, I always kind of like to draw a line in the middle. It gives us an idea of where we are. So if we get past this midline, it's tend to fall on pretty heavy. So if we can start to correct there, then I might take a short down. But I'm going to kind of hold off on speculating and focus a little bit more on the fork and start moving a little bit slower again. So that's all I got for today's episode, guys. I hope you liked the strategy overview for the fork. Wednesday, I think I'm just going to go over, I kind of want to go over RSI. If you guys have any suggestions or something in TA, in technical analysis, that you would like for me to do instead, I'm happy to do that, or happy to take suggestions. Maybe there's something that's coming up that you're seeing me do that you would like to learn, and it's not making sense. Fire away in the group or shoot me a DM, either way. And then next Saturday we'll have another trading kind of strategy session, and then next week it'll be really heavily focused on the fork. So thanks for tuning in today, guys. This video is going to be replayable. Once again, this is episode 4. And I'll see you guys in the Discord for the rest of the day. Have a good week, yeah.